Hi, Jordan.
Hi.
So I'm working on a project for school,
Okay.
and I wanted to ask you a couple questions. I know we work together, so sometimes we're in the throes of things, and we can better use our management skills, our leadership skills, and our soft skills. So today we're going to just do a Q&A session and talk about some things that maybe we can improve upon or some experiences we can share.
Okay.
So, question number one. How can limited time impact the workplace?
I definitely think limited time can affect it negatively. If you don't have enough time, people often make a lot of mistakes or overlook certain things that are necessary. Too many projects at once can have you, overlooking something very, very simple. So limited time's not something you want in your workplace.
Can you think of some examples when that's happened to you?
So earlier this month, we have Bring Your Dog to Work Day every second Thursday, and I was going crazy with Halloween events and running around that I thought it was a week ahead. So I overlooked the week and did it a week early.
Well, at least you got it out.
Yeah. Right.
So that's how you adapted well to the
I
situation.
at least did it.
Yeah, you
I
did
at least
it.
did it, but it
Okay.
was just a week sooner than it should have been.
So how do you think you could have done it better?
I think simply just being mindful of looking at my calendar. Because if I would have looked at it and even just taken 5 minutes, I would have been like, oh, that makes sense. Maybe this is why I don't have this task on this week. It's supposed to be for next week, whatever. But when I'm running around and not in the office, it's hard not to always, be right there and look at your calendar.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. If you don't have a reminder that pops up, then you're just running around throughout the day. And I think it's good practice to look first thing in the morning at your calendar.
Just like, what do I have today?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And do you anticipate something like that happening again in the future? And what would you do?
I definitely think so, especially now that it's like the holiday season. There's going to be so many events. We have, our Christmas party at 3 different locations. We have a manager's dinner, other events with the different brands. So I think it'll definitely happen again. But like I said, just be more mindful of my calendar and maybe just approaching it like week to week, and not looking too far ahead, but not, overlooking what's to come.
I think also one of the things, because we work in the same department, is we do have a lot thrown at us. And one of the things that I know I wanted to do, and probably could help you as well, is to just meet on a weekly basis and just catch up. Versus, in the moment when we're like, oh, we've got to do this today or that today, but maybe a strategy on a Monday morning to look ahead for the week.
Right.
Because there's just so many things going on in our dealership. So, all right. So, moving on with that, how can too much work impact the workplace?
Well, we've been learning that most, successful businesses and stuff have a whole team around a certain thing. Like different departments, like our department is 3 team members, sometimes 4. I feel like if there's too much work, someone's going to end up picking up the slack, and then depending on the person or the situation, like sometimes that leads to resentment of the other employees. Like, how come she gets to go home early, but I'm stuck here, 45 minutes late working on this or working on that? So I think that's detrimental to like the whole teamwork aspect.
Is there any particular thing that happened recently, or something that in a different work environment?
So when our vice president was delivering all those shoes or whatever, because we have a meeting and she delivers shoes as an invitation, and I was running around from 3 different locations, 30 minutes south, 15 minutes north to deliver all of those shoes, while some other team members got to stay in the office, which I get. We have different roles and stuff, but it was a lot.
It was a lot of shoes.
It was a lot.
I mean, we should probably take a side note here and just say we have 1,000 employees, so we ordered 500 pairs of shoes. We had to sort them, put invitations on them, and then randomly hand deliver these shoes throughout Palm Beach County. So it wasn't even like one campus.
Right, that's what I was saying, yeah. 30 minutes south, 15 minutes north, and it was just the day before running around was a lot.
And it wasn't just one day. There was different meetings set up throughout the calendar month, and so you had to personally deliver that shoe, and if they weren't there that day, you had to find a way to get it
back to them. Yeah.
So yes,
it was a hassle.
Definite hassle. That was a lot of work. You're right. So can you anticipate anything like that in the future, and how would you handle it?
Yeah, I think because being in the marketing department, we're always gonna have events, we're always gonna have something that we have to do, we're always gonna be running around, so I think maybe brainstorming more effective ways to do things that use our time better, or even delegating more to, even if it's other people in other departments, just, you know, if it's a simple task of delivering something, maybe we delegate that to someone else, or,
Right.
you know, something so that we're using our time most effectively.
Well, I do remember you gave a suggestion to the vice president, and
Yes.
what was that, and did she take it?
Yes, so just to, instead of delivering the shoes to each person, having a basket here, and as soon as they walk into the meeting, they just get the shoe there. And that way we just, you know, calculate how many people will be there, put their names on them, and leave them, and it's less running around.
Much more time
Yes.
efficient for you.
Much better for us.
Sure. So how can other people not doing their part impact the workplace?
I think that that goes kind of the same thing as there being too much work, because the same thing, it might lead to resentment. Like one person will be like, well, how come I'm always having to do all these things and this person just kind of coasts along or whatever. And of course, when your manager sees that you're a hard worker, they're going to give you more work because they know it's going to be done. So
Right.
it will throw off the balance of being a team, I think.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of an example to that?
So my example was that we have an HR department that sets up for orientation, because it's their whole process, it's their whole calendar, they go through everything, they go over their benefits, they do it's basically all their presentation, but then they have us set up the meeting. So it's like, I get that, you know, we make everything look pretty, and then this is for your meeting, but it's also something that could live out of their department and not really with us.
Right, I agree. I think there's some everybody thinks, oh, we'll have the marketing department do that, when sometimes the whole project or event or meeting needs to just be developed and implemented within that
them.
department.
Yes, exactly.
One, because it really meets their needs, and then two, because it's a reflection of their department.
Exactly.
And sometimes there's things missing in the translation of it, because they're assuming we're handling it, and we're assuming they're handling it because it's their department.
And then, yep,
So,
it's misconstrued.
yes. So do you anticipate anything like that happening in the future? Have you done anything to work with the HR team to make it better?
So they're gonna have orientations all the time, every 2 weeks at this point, I feel like. So I was even just thinking maybe something small, like we created a bin for them, and we just make sure that they understand, you bring the bin with the tablecloth, with the stuff in it, with the confetti, with the signs, you take that, ownership of that, and then you set it up. Or like we go the day before and set up the chairs, but then they set up the next day when
Right.
food gets there and everything else. I think maybe just delegating the smaller tasks to them will eventually get them to take over the whole project.
Right. It'll be much more time efficient.
Yes.
Because I know sometimes you're running around at different campuses, and that orientation takes place at the main campus,
Right.
our central campus. So if you're 30 minutes south and the meeting's the next day, you've got to run back and go set that up before you leave.
Right.
Gotcha. So how can conflict between and among employees impact the workplace?
That just sounds terrible. Conflict, you don't want with it, really. I mean, there's a way to have constructive conflict, but between employees, it's like when personal matters get involved, and then feelings, and it can get heated, and I just think it could even go farther and turn into other employees sabotaging the work of others, or have to get HR involved. There's just a lot of bad things that come with conflict.
Have you experienced that?
Yes, actually, not a lot.
Tell
but so there was a girl here who had resigned and get put in her 2 weeks, but had wanted to still stay with the company and had wanted to propose to take over my role when I felt like I was doing fine in my role, like it wasn't something that needed to be replaced. So almost kind of like a behind my back situation, and I considered her my friend, so it was a little hard to deal with, but
So what did you do?
I chose just to kind of keep my distance from her. I didn't really say anything about it, but I didn't also really say anything to her, period. Like I just, whenever she was around and I didn't feel like comfortable being there, I would just make an excuse to leave or find something else to go do or whatever the situation was until she, her 2 weeks were up and she was gone.
Did you feel confident enough in the work you were producing, or did you feel like you needed to step up your game because maybe eyes were on you at that point?
I kind of felt like I needed to step up my game. I felt like I had to prove myself, even though no one should really ever kind of have to feel
Right.
that way. But I had to go and write down on a piece of paper, like just to show everything that I was actually doing, instead of whoever would, you know, the vice president, whoever would evaluate me would just look at the work instead of me having to be like, well, here's all of these things that I'm doing. Or you can just, you know, log on to social media and see. So
And what was the result of that? How did that end up?
So at thinking back on it, I think that I need to strengthen probably my communication skills a little bit to where I would have felt okay talking to her about it. Like I know, you know, me not saying anything didn't lead to any conflict because I just kind of ignored the issue, but I also kind of want to be the person that can confidently communicate with someone and not be afraid that, you know, we might butt heads a little bit,
Right.
but it won't turn into anything really heated or really crazy.
Right.
So I think that would be something I'd have to work on after that.
Sometimes that can be intimidating when you have to confront, when you say confrontation, you don't want it to be a negative thing, but
Right.
sometimes you do have to talk out
It's a
challenges
little
with
bit
somebody,
strong, yeah.
and it can be a little bit sticky. And so, one thing that is really important as you grow in your career is to want to be able to talk it out professionally. Because I know just in general, we work so closely together and there's frustrations that we experience within the company, and sometimes we're just like, oh, I wish this or I wish that,
Right.
and it's so hard because you feel like, well, I'm just not gonna say anything. And it's true, we all do that, and conflict is not something we can control. We can't control other people's
I just
actions.
need to, figure out
we can
more
only
effective ways
control.
that I
Yeah.
can navigate through it.
Right. So good job.
Thanks.
That was fun getting to hear that. We don't get to talk like